What's up, guys? It's Stan Mitchell. Today, going to part 3. Part 1 and 2 were a little intense and, you know, maybe a little emotionally draining. There was drama in part 1. In part 2, it was the phone call home. So part 3 is going to be a lot more humorous, I hope. We're calling this one Snakes in the Grass. So, I thought I'd share for part 3 my first field op with 3rd Platoon. As I said in the earlier videos, I was in Alpha Company, 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, 3rd Platoon. And after I graduated School of Infantry, as we talked about in part 1, I met Smith and I made the phone call home. It was almost like the very next week was our first field op. Now, a field op is, you go out in the field, you're all cammied up, you're practicing various things. Sometimes it'll be like defensive operations, sometimes it'll be offensive, like patrolling or assaults. On this one, we were practicing patrolling, and I was a little nervous going into it because I knew that you're always told that, boot camp is hard, but School of Infantry, it's going to be a little bit harder. We already discussed that. You carry more weight. You got to move further distances. And then the fleet, which is short for Fleet Marine Force, these are the units that could be deployed overnight, within just a few days. Sometimes you're actually on air alert and you can be deployed within hours. So this is the real deal. And these guys haven't been practicing for 3 months of boot camp and 2 months at School of Infantry for 5 months. These guys have been mastering warfare for years, many of them 2, 3, 4 years. They're usually bigger, stronger, and there are fewer safety parameters when you're training for the real deal in the fleet or Fleet Marine Force. So this is our first field op. I'm a brand new boot, which stands for a newbie. And I obviously want to keep a low profile, not make any mistakes, and try to start earning some respect. And so first field op was patrolling. I don't remember much about anything before we left, but I do know once we got to the field, my squad leader, who is a great guy, he's this tall, intimidating presence, and he says, "Mitchell, you're going to be on point." So I was going to be the point man. That's the guy out front, and I had assumed up to that point that the patrolling wouldn't be too hard because I would just be following behind the guy in front of me. As long as you're not point man or squad leader, running a patrol is not that hard. So I had been told I would be on point, and we had all been briefed / threatened by our squad leader that there would be no talking during this patrol. We were all cammied up with camouflage paint all over us, and we had to be silent. And he said, you will only use hand and arm signals the entire time. No talking under any circumstances. I'm a new guy. I hear that, so I take that as fact. And I went into it just absolutely certain I would not be talking for any reason. So the patrol was going to move along this little creek bed. And I'm the point man. Right behind me is the squad leader. Like the earlier videos, I don't plan on naming anyone. He's a great guy. I'm still friends with him, but I don't intend to name any Marines in any of these videos or stories, unless they were to give me their express permission or whatnot. But at any rate, that's up to them. We're moving along this creek bed, and I don't have a compass at all. I was told just to kind of follow this creek bed, and then at some distance he would tell me to veer off, like to the left, whatever, like 30 degrees or whatever. This is in the 90s. This is in 95, I think, and this is before GPS was prevalent. So the only way you had to know of where you were or where you are on a map is to keep up with your pace count and your azimuth from your compass. And in Camp Lejeune in a swamp area, it's not like a map you might have for your city or for the Smoky Mountains or some national park. There are very few terrain features. There are no hills. There are very few marked streams. All there is a large green area of swamp / forest. You get dropped off, and you must keep a perfect pace count and an exact azimuth, or you're going to get turned around. And if you get turned around, then you're going to have to walk to a road, which is something only a bunch of boots would do. So the squad leader was handling navigation, as we called it. So we're walking along this creek bed, and I'm the point man, and my goal is to try to see the enemy first before they see us, and be quiet. So you're watching where you're stepping. You're looking around for the enemy. And I think that day maybe there was like another platoon out there that we were trying to see. So my goal was to try to see them before they saw us, so that I could give hand and arm signals back there, and then we could set up an ambush. Or I don't remember that day if it was like a security patrol, if we were just trying to see them, or if we were trying to ambush them, or what. None of that matters to the story, but all I know is I was on point and I was super nervous. And so we're walking along this creek bed, and we hadn't gone very far, and every few steps, maybe 10, 15 feet, I'd look back at him, make sure he wasn't going to tell me go left or right, also to make sure that he didn't have like a halt signal or speed up, and everything's going fine. I could tell I was probably going a little too slow. I was nervous, so sometimes when I'd look back, he'd be giving me like the, speed up. And I'm going along, and suddenly I see, like, my peripheral vision, a black object sliding away. And so I stop, I look down. You guys know what it was. It was obviously a snake. It was a big black water moccasin. And I'm like, holy crap. I've never seen a snake like that. Even though I used to hunt, I can't ever remember seeing a snake that big, that close. And the thing was, 4 or 5 feet away or whatever, crawling off. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that I nearly stepped on the snake. And so I'm trying to compose myself and catching my breath. And I look back at him, and he's maybe 15 yards back or so, and he's just pissed because I've stopped, and the whole patrol is behind me. He's just like, go, like, what are you doing? And so I nod as an affirmative. I go to take another step, and I still can't believe that one snake had been, a little bit of distance away. Right as I go to take a step with my left or right foot or whatever, I see this black blob even closer, just to my left, and I'm just like, holy crap. So there's a second water moccasin. It's just as big. It's curled up. It's like a foot or two away. It's waiting to strike, and I'm just standing there like, oh my goodness. I didn't know much about water moccasins. They teach you just a tad in the Marine Corps, mainly like stay away from them. They teach you that they're aggressive. They teach you that their bites are not only poisonous, but they could prove fatal. So I am just like heart pounding through my chest, completely freaked out and convinced I'm going to get bitten by this snake. I didn't know what to do, so we're just staring at each other for 2 or 3 seconds, and I've got all this gear on, and it's clumsy, and there's branches everywhere in this creek bed. I couldn't have jumped or moved if I'd wanted to. If this thing wants to bite me, it's going to bite me, and there's nothing I can do about it. Thankfully, our little stare down, it probably saw the fear from me and decided, this guy's a chump, there's no need in biting him. I'm not sure, but I think I've got to move back slowly or this thing's going to bite me. And so I move just super slow. Bring my left foot back a little bit, bring my right foot back, another step, another step. Okay, now the snake's like, a good 5, 6 feet away. I double check to make sure he's not crawling near me or not, and I take a deep breath. I turn around, I look back at the squad leader. Well, he said we can't talk, and I don't know what to do. The snake's in the creek bed right along where we're moving. And I'm like, well, I got to tell the guy. So I point at the snake. We're about 15 yards apart, and there's a log between us, which I didn't think much about that at the time. I point down at this black thing, which he can't see, and I don't know, there's no hand and arm signal for snakes. So I point at it, and I'm like, I do this. So let me see if I do this thing you see. So I point at it, and I give a squiggly signal. Okay. And I look back at him, and he's like, what? And so I point at it again, and I do this. And I think he nods, and then he's just like, go. Like, he's pissed. He's been wanting me to move faster. I'm not moving fast enough. I nod. What am I going to do? I'm a new guy. I'm a boot. So it's 5 or 6 feet away. I just I do like a big, 5 or 8 feet little circle around it. back in the creek bed, keep moving. Heart was still pounding, but like I'm super focused. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just so in the zone that I'm convinced that I want to see this other platoon before they see us, and I just want to prove myself so bad. I just want to see the enemy first and be super quiet. So I am like in the zone, patrolling again with my weapon, nice and the way you're supposed to, eyes over your rifle, and I had gone maybe another 10 or 15 yards, totally forgotten about the snake. Wasn't, in my mind, I'm like, we're all, badass Marines, and what's a couple of water moccasins, right? I mean, I'm the only chump who's scared. And although I was watching where I was stepping a little better after that, and then all of a sudden I hear just tons of screaming behind me, cursing like you would not believe, and I turn, and my squad leader is like almost like dancing, like jumping up, throws his rifle down, son of a, what am I, and he's just cussing, tons of words I can't say or shouldn't say, and this rifle's thrown down. Other Marines are like running up to see what's going on. Of course, I realize, holy crap, he's either stepped on that snake or almost has, and so I start moving back to him. People were asking what happened. He said, I nearly got bit by the snake. A few of them were looking at me angrily and say, well, why didn't you tell him? And I'm like, hey, it nearly bit me too. I gave the signal. That's what I meant when I did the little squiggly hand thing. And once he calmed down and got his breathing under control, I have no idea how close it came to biting him, but I'm assuming like even closer than it came to biting me. And I felt terrible about it because I really liked the squad leader, and especially compared to the squad leader that followed, this guy was one of the best squad leaders I liked. He was really well respected in the platoon, and I felt absolutely terrible about this. So the patrol, we eventually recomposed ourselves, and I think we kept going with the patrol. But what he had thought is when I pointed down and did this, he took that to mean that I was pointing at the creek bed, and that this meant creek, and he thought I was asking, should I keep following the creek versus, taking a left or right at 30 degrees or whatever azimuth he was going to tell me. So he didn't realize I had been pointing at a snake, and so that's where the big misunderstanding came from. And at any rate, so that was literally my first field op. I think it was my first day in the field. I'm almost certain that's the case. And of course I get put on point, and of course I nearly lead my squad leader right into a water moccasin. So, four little lessons that I think we got to learn stuff. We got to learn lessons from the things we experience, right? So the first one was, I think if you're in charge, be careful how strong or adamant what you say is. In this case, he had given lots of instructions, but the main thing I had picked up was no talking under any circumstance. And well, there are times where it's probably a good thing to talk just a little. Obviously, it would have been better if I had, once I composed myself, walked back and said, hey, there's like a pissed off water moccasin right ahead. He's not leaving. I don't know if it's a nest or what it is, but he's going to bite someone if we don't go way around him. That didn't happen because the main thing I took from the briefing was like, don't say anything. So my whole deal was I was not going to say anything under any circumstance. And clearly if someone had been bitten, we were miles and miles and hours away from getting anyone to a hospital, so it could have been bad. And the second lesson is kind of the opposite of the first. I think if you're ordered to do something, I think there are times where you defy that order. I think one of my biggest regrets from that is, even though he was kind of pissed and like, go, move, I should have walked back to him, defied his order and said, hey man, I should have whispered, there's a water moccasin ahead, and we need to go around it. And I should have risked, getting in trouble, and told him, because I would have obviously felt bad if he had gotten bitten. And then also, I liked the guy so much that it really bothered me that, he lost a little bit of face that day. I mean, no one wants to get scared by a snake and curse out loud and throw their weapon down and look, a little scared. I mean, who wants to do that, right? The third lesson I thought might come from this is that no matter how low in rank or status a person is, if you're in charge, they may know something that you need to know. So this guy had been in the Marine Corps, 4 years, was a corporal, knew everything. There's nothing that, I think I was a PFC then, the PFC Mitchell, Private First Class Mitchell, could tell this guy. But in this case, there actually was one thing I could tell him that he probably needed and wanted to know, and that was that there's a water moccasin ahead. So I'm sure afterward he probably wishes that that I gave this weird signal. He knows that there was no hand and arm signal for creep. Probably in hindsight, if you get a confusing signal from someone, he probably wishes he had walked up to me and said, "What the heck are you talking about, Mitchell?" I would have told him there was a snake ahead and we could have avoided it. And then the final thing I learned from it is, don't rub it in. I could have bragged about how, yeah, I nearly got bit too, and I wasn't scared. Well, first of all, the truth was I was scared. The only reason I didn't react the way he reacted, and he may have even gotten closer than me, it might have even snapped at him, I don't know. But the only reason I wasn't scared is that I was more scared of him and that guy named Smith, who I mentioned in the first chapter, than I was of that snake. And secondly, I was trying to make an impression. I was trying to earn their respect. So, it would have been a lie to have rubbed it in and bragged to others like, the snake didn't scare me. There was 2 of them. So, I think that would have been an asshole move to do. So anyway, those were the 4 lessons. Hopefully the story was somewhat humorous, but I think if you're in charge, be careful about super strict instructions. If you're the person under someone, be willing to speak up even if you're not supposed to and defy what you're told. If you're in charge and there's some confusion, and even though you might be in a hurry or whatever, maybe go ask the new person, because maybe it's a really unique situation, which, in 4 years, we came across a few snakes, but there was never an incident quite that bad. And finally, if you're lucky enough, in my case, to not look like, someone that was a little scared, don't rub it in, don't brag or whatever. This squad leader was a really popular guy, and everyone liked him, and so I would have gained nothing. Even if I had gone behind his back and bragged about this event, I would have gained nothing, because he was well respected. He had earned his respect. He had earned his rank, and he'd earned his dignity. We all slip up sometimes. That was the one small slip up I ever remember of that guy. So anyway, that's it. That's part 3. I'll try to get part 4 up in a couple of days. Hope you enjoy, and that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks.